Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, and that is Caleb. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, talk about a whirlwind of emotions. Another Saturday in the books for Nebraska football. Obviously, a tough loss for Nebraska against Purdue. And we have lots to talk about today, obviously. It's going to be a fun one, to say the least. And, of course, we're predicting the Ohio State game, going through the X factors, the keys to the game, breaking that down, and then, of course, giving our predictions as well. So there's a lot to go over. But first, Caleb, how you doing?
Well, Josh, I am pretty emotionally spent from this this Husker team.
Yeah.
Again, just a team that continues to let you down.
They're really creative, honestly. It's impressive. It really is.
Just any way they can find to just, just punch you in the gut, that they will really do it. No, but on a serious note, if you feel bad for all the players that have worked really hard these past few years.
JoJo's press conference. Yeah. Oh my word, dude.
It stinks.
The feels.
Comes back to, hopefully, win some games for the Huskers. Obviously cares about this place a lot. A lot of those players do, coming back to try to have a good season and probably not make a bowl game. It sucks. It sucks for the guys.
Well, we'll see. I mean, who knows? We got 3 games left. We could pull an absolute miracle out. You never know. But not looking great, obviously, though, with 3 ranked opponents on the board right now with Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
Yeah, not an easy stretch. We all knew this going into the season, though. At the beginning of the season, I picked Nebraska to 5-7. It's crazy that we're not even probably going to hit that mark. So I guess disappointing still. But, didn't have the highest of hopes in the first place, as some people did. It's tough. Not to hit 5 games, though, is pretty wild.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the Purdue game, it was tough. So we'll start here with the breakdown there and then head through some of the takeaways offensively and defensively and kind of head through it that way. But 28-23 obviously was the final score there. It was a tough one with some garbage time touchdown after going down by 2 scores there in the fourth quarter. We keep that 1 touchdown loss in the books there, which
intact.
Is always interesting,
those
to say the least.
Time and touchdowns coming in clutch.
Yeah, let's start on the offensive side and talk about some of these things. Obviously, the game was decided in the turnover column. I mean, 4 turnovers for Nebraska, none for Purdue, which I think you said was the 4th time in the last 3 years that Purdue's hasn't had turnover in a game, and 3 of them
are against Nebraska.
But against us, which is great. So it's just tough, man. We saw Purdue really struggle last week and had 4 turnovers in that game, and then they come in here assuming we had a good chance to make something happen there, and then we're the one that's turned the ball over and handing it over to him. So let's start with Adrian Martinez. Let's start with the talk of the town this week and your thoughts on Adrian's performance in that game. What did we learn?
Again, I've seen the same guy now for the last few years. Not too much. He should have had 2 pick sixes this game. One was luckily dropped, which kept us in the game.
Right off the freaking start of the game.
Yeah, that Austin Allen fumble, interception was kind of like karma coming there at the end. One should have been pick six, and one kind of sent us away at the end there. But just really errant throws. He looked like he was short arming some stuff. The one where he overthrew Samori Toure and just fell right in the lap of the safety. Obviously, again, the shovel pass was awful, that pick. Then the pick six too. So, there was a whole plethora of just bad plays for Adrian. Again, he's just, he's too careless with the ball. He's been too careless with the ball. And it's going to continue to make us lose games. Again, you can lose to any team if you turn the ball over 4 times. Just ask Ohio State when they lost to Iowa that one year, because you know what? They had 4 picks. So again, it doesn't matter who you play. If you turn the ball over 4 times in the Big Ten, you're just going to lose. It's not rocket science. It's not this crazy math formula. It doesn't matter how many yards you have. Giving up the football, coughing up the rock, it's going to lose. You're going to lose every time.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as bad of an Adrian Martinez as we've seen.
44% passing
in a while. And again, like we talked about last week, because Caleb had us losing, but I had us winning. And I thought that usually in Frost's career, tenure has been after a disappointing loss on the road, you come home against a team that you're favored against. We usually play pretty well and have had a pretty good history of bouncing back in these types of games at home after a loss. Usually Adrian's come out, been pretty comfortable. played well and executed pretty effectively. And generally, we're pretty good at getting to the quarterbacks and getting turnovers and creating some problems. But the exact opposite script happened, obviously, and that's where it went downhill really quick. I mean, we've had back-to-back games now with Adrian, at Minnesota, and now here, where it's been, about as bad of Adrian as we've seen in his career. I mean,
he
dating back to maybe
like
sophomore,
a bottom feeder quarterback in the Power 5.
Sophomore Adrian right now. So that's what's really frustrating, is to see the degression after seeing some positive signs earlier in the year with Adrian against some of these great teams like Michigan State and Michigan.
Really the Michigan game. We put up a good amount of points against Michigan. But man, our offense just really, we can't break that 30-point bubble against Big Ten teams this year. We've scored 23 now multiple times, including that painful, Minnesota loss. Again, we just can't really get over the hump. You got to score more than 23 points. That's, pretty clear. Spotting a team 7 points this week too. With an offense that hasn't looked good, now for probably like the past 4 weeks. Yeah, it's been rough out there.
There's obviously a lot of question marks there with Adrian and what that should look like
start
going forward. I mean, realistically, Frost has doubled down. He's starting. I mean, he's playing, at least for sure, against Ohio State. He's
the press conference
when
asked, when he was asked about it, he said, it's not a story. Adrian, we're gonna put the guy who gives us the best chance to win, and it's Adrian Martinez. Scott Frost, literally doubled down and said in this Monday press conference, Adrian is going to start the rest of the season. No question.
So it's sounding like that's pretty likely at this point. So it's just really frustrating when Adrian's struggling to execute sub 10-yard passes still at this point in his career, where last year downfield was a problem, and this year you could probably argue that inside of 10 yards has been the biggest problem with some of these out routes or these crossing routes that have turned into turnovers, and a lot of these just frustrating throws that just haven't been executed well. And we're seeing a lot of the same lack of awareness while rolling and all of these things that have been continuing to plague him. And that's just really, 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 really frustrating, to say the least.
His internal clock still not great.
No.
Again, he was so good at the beginning of the season about, getting out of the pocket and creating stuff and buying himself time. But again, you can't hit the short, simple stuff right now. Last game, he couldn't hit much of anything, especially as that confidence really just, kind of faded away, especially in those last few minutes of the game. It's just his prime time to turn the ball over. He's like the opposite of Isaiah Thomas, game time, when it's the final seconds. It's the exact opposite for Adrian Martinez. It's turnover time. So
I know it's just crazy too, because it's Adrian's just had some. Obviously, the O-line doesn't do him any favors, and he's been under pressure a lot this year, and
for sure.
And there's those things for sure, and you saw that again in this game against Purdue, but. Where, the O-line didn't play by any means a great game again, but
times there was good pockets and time to throw, and we saw him convert early in some of those things, but it was just later on in the game, there was the Xavier Betts throw in the first quarter that was 30 yards, and then there was a pretty good throw to Omar Manning. But again, just later in the game, even with time, those hits just became misses, and then those misses became picks.
Right, and then at the end of the day, it just comes down to those turnovers. And when you're struggling to convert like that in the biggest times of the game and turn the ball over and making boneheaded mistakes. The shovel pass pick is inexcusable. That is.
That's a Shaq and a fool highlight.
Yeah. That's a come on, man. That's That's as bad as it gets for Sports Center, not top 10 level type.
That's not top 10, 100%. That's not top 10.
So that's just, it's crazy. It really is. And so it's the problem is I don't really believe at this point, if Logan Smothers was undoubtedly better than Adrian, I think Frost would give him a go at this point. Last year, obviously, he at least thought that there was insane upside with McCaffrey to give him a shot. Yeah. It didn't work out, obviously, but he was worth the shot. This year, it seems like Logan, may not be that guy.
But who knows? Again,
true.
I remember him filling in.
MSU?
It was at an MSU game where, again, he didn't turn the ball over in those few passes. He made a 15-yard throw.
Moving the ball a little bit, and then penalties,
the ball was moving before the penalty. Yeah, before the offensive line, had a couple nice false starts to get the thing rolling for him. So, again, I'd kind of like to see him get at least a shot, maybe not at the beginning of the game, but again, if Adrian's, if he's having a bad game like this again, or if
the score's
Minnesota
getting out of hand
game
here.
Yeah, exactly. Where he's throwing, a couple picks. Like, if Heisman candidate Spencer Rattler can get benched, I think Adrian Martinez at some point
starter
can get benched.
Adrian Martinez can get benched.
Yeah, it's like he's already got benched before for a backup QB. And you know what? And that did end up procuring us a win. Probably Scott Frost's best win in the Penn State game. So yeah. I know it goes both ways. But it's like, Luke lost the next game to Illinois. That's true, but Adrian's lost 2 games to Illinois himself. So, how much can we really weigh there?
That's fair.
At some point, maybe like to see the guy. So
it's just tough. It puts Frost in a tough spot for the future too, because it's like Frost is playing for his job right now, so he really doesn't have the luxury of like playing for the future, and he probably needs to put Adrian out there because he does in theory give you probably the highest upside, best chance to win if the turnovers don't happen. Like it's always that debate.
But if the turnovers don't happen, we're a good team, but we're not a good team and we haven't been, so it's just like at what point do you want to like try something new to try and help you? I think it's kind of the marquee of one I think biggest Scott Frost pitfalls. He's just stubborn to the core, and it is his way. It is the best way, and it's really hurt him at times.
Yeah.
Especially at Nebraska, he won't budge on something. And you know what? I do think that sometimes Adrian Martinez has been indicative of Scott Frost, especially in those late games. We've seen Scott Frost with ultra conservative play calls, being nervous down the stretch. It doesn't feel like he's ever secured trust in Adrian really to go get that win.
That's fair.
At the end of the game. So I think it is even a little bit of Scott Frost rubbing off on Adrian Martinez on, again, the coach is a reflection of the team. I don't think anybody's thought that Scott Frost has been, much in the clutch as a head coach or done anything to prove that, he can win
really
those close ones.
Yeah, that's for sure, to say the least. So
I don't know. It's partly on Adrian, but at the same time, Scott Frost has looked also ultra poor in those late game situations.
Yeah, because we put out a handful of polls before the Purdue game because we had the conversations in the bye week, like where are we at, Husker Nation? Where are we at with Scott Frost in the future? And it was looking like a 70-30, but it looks like that bar's been
70
moving.
Scott Frost stay.
Yeah, 70-30 with Frost staying, but like after that Purdue, about as disappointing a performance as you can get after being favored by so much that it's moving now. We're down to like a near 50-50, 55-45 type situation here with Frost staying. Husker Nation is starting to swing, and if this game gets out of hand, then we head over to Wisconsin and Iowa, and we're getting handed L's. The public opinion could be shifted.
And remember when Scott Frost said like a couple of years ago that like this is rock bottom?
3 wins would be a little bit worse.
If we hit 3 wins, that'll be a new rock bottom.
Yeah, with a returning starting quarterback, a 4th-year quarterback, and 9 of 11 returning starters on defense. It would be a bad look. So we gotta pull one of these out. That's really what has to happen here. So
honestly, we gotta pull 3 of these out.
Well, that's true. So offensively, otherwise, some positive things real quick. I definitely want to talk about the receiving core. I think we're seeing some progress here with like Omar Manning especially Omar Manning. Omar Manning looked fantastic in this game.
100 yards, that touchdown again, where
real nice.
His run after the catch looked really good this game.
Yeah, man.
Again, he's had pretty sure hands this whole way. Great frame and athletic. He can get open. But yeah, that touchdown run where again he made that extra effort to get in. I also saw him on the tape like on one of the picks, the pick 6. I saw Omar Manning like running to try and tackle the defender who picked off the ball.
Yeah, he was hustling. You like to see that.
He gave 100%. So it's just stuff like that you really like to see.
Yeah, this was by far his best game yet.
Really encouraging. Yeah, so really positive. I think it was only like 4 catches, but still, like, he made full use of those 4 catches.
And he was getting open. I think he had some other opportunities too, where he probably had some decent opportunities and was running routes well and getting downfield. And so you like to see that. I think we're still looking for a little bit better like downfield blocking from Omar when he's in the game. I'm sure that's what the coaches are looking forward to, with trying to establish this run on the ground, where we haven't seen the receivers do a great job of that this season overall. So we're still looking for more of that, but you definitely got to get excited for Omar in this game and seeing a little bit more of what that future could be with Omar if he stays around. So that's definitely exciting and something to keep your eye on with him moving forward in these last few games as well. Yant would be one guy there where he made some nice plays, and man, I wish we would have fed him more. He was starting to establish a little bit on the ground, and we saw Illinois, use their bruiser in the second half and had a lot of success with him in the second half, and we really went away from Yant in that second half.
Yeah, only 6 carries, but 60 yards. I mean, 10 yards per carry.
Two really nice
this whole
ones.
year, he's been over 6 yards per carry for us. He's our best. And, his yards after contact are just fantastic. I mean, he's big,
fast.
But he's fast. He's fast for how
To
big
the
he
edge.
is. 245, but he can move.
He bounced 2 of them to the edge.
Again, he's great vision too. He's really exciting to see. And I'd love to see him get fed the ball more. Again, he can be integral. I mean, think about another year with him, just like when he hits the weight room some more in this offseason. Yep. Again, using that frame and turning that that water weight into some more muscle.
I mean, he has all rights to be college Derrick Henry if he wants to be. Obviously,
Yeah, exactly.
So, but he can be
he's a Jerome
Derrick
Bettis
Henry.
frame,
Yeah. And like if he slims down a little bit more, like, oh my word, the speed could be nuts. I mean, he has the upside there. So
yeah, if he drops another 10 pounds, speedster. Like if he's 235 and that's muscle and he's already this fast, and like again, he plays his full weight. Like,
for sure.
Again, like he uses all those pound for pound. So yeah, super exciting from him.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing like moving forward is like, we all want to see him get the ball more, but I think the coaching staff doesn't fully trust him yet. We saw him even recently run a few wrong plays, or like at least get a little bit confused at the goal line. That happened. He tripped at the goal line in that game, and that he costed us there. So there are still those moments where he has those like young player mistakes, and
those freshman mistakes for sure.
Yeah, and trying to learn those things. And so those are the big question marks where it's like, all right, we'll see what happens here. But if Yant can keep this up, he has a lot of potential, man. It's really exciting to see. The O-line actually played. That's the frustrating thing, is that like outside of Adrian's turnovers, there was every opportunity where we should easily win this game. The offensive line even played a pretty solid game, all things considered. And
they've had some push on the run. They had some good pass.
Run blocking was ideal. Run blocking was solid. Pass blocking, iffy to say the least.
Yeah, there's definitely some left to be desired there.
Yes,
for sure.
yes. But I mean, like overall, I think there's still some very exciting opportunities there. I mean, Turner, not a great game again. Things you hate to see. Bryce and Turner can still figure it out a little bit, but we'll see what happens. It's not like we're playing a great pass rushing team this week, so
Matt Sichterman isn't the most athletic person on the football field at all times.
It's tough, man.
Blasphemy.
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
I mean, good news is Newly, I think, still looking pretty good. He's one guy who I think we're all excited about moving into next year and onwards as well. And Cam Jurgens, I think, still playing pretty well. So those two guys, at least, are bright spots, but we're still looking for a little bit more. Amari Torrey's been a little bit quieter than I'd like for him to be these last few weeks.
And again, that was my worry at the beginning of the season. That's why I said, again, like
dominate against the crap teams, and then
you can look amazing against those FCS
Fordham's
schools
in Buffalo.
But again, like there's a reason why he was, at those FCS schools. You get into the Big Ten where there's a lot better defense. Everybody's as fast as you. It gets a lot tougher. He hasn't been bad.
He just hasn't been flashy. And
when
you
look
he
hasn't
at like
been
what
that
Wandale's
NFL
doing with
it's
Kentucky,
not that NFL talent that just trying to boost his draft stock. Everybody was
it's
saying
painful.
coming in.
It's painful, but overall, I think there's still optimism for the offense, and it's not like there's just still so much untapped potential. It's just frustrating, but we'll see. Defensively, what are your thoughts on his defense after this game? I mean, Taylor Britt continues to be an absolute unit, and I love everything about this man. And
beast.
He's an absolute goat. I love him.
Just a great. I mean, again, just hard hits. Great job on defense. On his coverage.
Breakups there. You're just like, ooh, baby, Cam Taylor, we're back, baby. And this is like multiple games in a row now where he's been a beast. So
and he's graded out well. So it's like NFL for sure. All Big Tens coming his way if he keeps it up.
Yeah, honestly, maybe if Nebraska, if we're smartest fans, we probably want him to slow this thing down a little bit because, like, we need to somehow convince this man to stay.
Go to the league, make your money, Cam. That's what we want. That's what we hope for all of our players at Nebraska, for them to go pro.
Give it a year,
make their money.
Develop your talent.
Nah. Get the bread. Get
it's
the
depressing.
bag.
So we'll see. It seems like Cam's going to be leaving, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, he's absolutely insane. Obviously a stud. I mean, Nick Henrich continues to kind of develop into a guy that you can see the potential with. He's really getting to the edge a little bit better. I think both of us had some gripes with, both Reimer and Henrich at times in this game, where like they had a lot of
more
good
Reimer.
moments.
Yeah.
But both of them just seem to take some steps where you're just like, I mean, like that, in football, 1 or 2 steps can be the difference, the wrong direction. And it's like sometimes it feels like they're missing
over pursuing
the guard who's pushing up the field already. They're not
action.
Reading the blocks well. Like there's times where it's like, yo, there's 2 O-linemen that are currently 2 yards downfield. Like this isn't a play action. Like this isn't a pass play. Like let's attack the gaps here. Like these guys are pushing. They're already pushing up the field here. This isn't a pass play. Let's attack the gaps. Like there's sometimes there's a few times where it feels like it's a little bit slow and you want it to be faster.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it just seems that, again, maybe that football, that tape, they just seem, they really seem hesitant a lot of times. Obviously, they want to hit their assignments and make sure that they fill their gaps and stuff. But, just that some of that recognition at the end, like
there's a lot of
that it is your gap,
still.
like, again, it's being tenacious, like boom, hitting that spot. Or, again, in Reimer, sometimes just a bad time, again, in pass coverage. Henrich looked a little bit better.
I know, I agree. Henrich had a really, really good game.
In coverage. But Reimer still has been really disappointing in the coverage since he had such a great first couple of weeks. He just really hasn't lived up. I don't know. He just... I don't know what it is, but
it feels like he's overthinking some things. Like a little hesitant, like you said. He's
trying. Yeah, definitely. It looks like he's sometimes deer in the headlights. He's too worried about the big play. Maybe not trying to make a play sometimes. So,
yeah, I mean that's kind of always been a thing. But both of them, I think, are still showing a lot of potential moving forward. Obviously, they're both young, and like we can get excited about them for next year or heading into the end of the season. But like. It's just a tough spot to be in with Nebraska right now because it's like you want to get excited about our best players, but you're like, oh my word, they're all going to leave in 3 games. And then it's like, here we go again,
Square
rebuilding.
One, yeah.
Like, it's just frustrating. That's where I get scared. But other things, what else did you have in mind here? I thought Miles Farmer came in and looked at least really solid, replacing Deontay Williams, obviously, who's been hurt. He looked solid.
Yeah, again, he did, the last couple years for us. I don't know. I saw a lot of people kind of commenting on just kind of the philosophy with Purdue. Again, Nebraska on defense has really allowed these subpar QBs or, all right Big Ten QBs to just get in so much rhythm with just this soft coverage and, not playing for the line to gain, but backing up way more and just so scared of the big play, wanted to keep everything in front of us. Almost too much to just sacrifice too much yards. It feels like we've given up too much here, and a lot of people were really, kind of frustrated with that philosophy, and that really is what burnt us against Minnesota and Purdue. I get we should blanket Bell, but everybody else, I don't know. I feel like we should have been a little bit more aggressive. Maybe it was just the whole philosophy and it wasn't Reimer's thing. He was doing his job great. It's just this was way too passive of a game for our whole defense.
We were talking about a little bit where it's like, oh, it's 2nd and 8. I wonder what they're going to throw. Oh, it's a curl route at the 8, like 8 yards downfield. Who would have thought? Like,
and our safeties are 20 yards deep.
And they're biting and they're playing soft on a potential hitch route. Like, no, they're not going to run a hitch and go here on 2nd and 8 on their own 20-yard line. Like they're probably going to try to get a first down here and move the chains a little bit. Like I don't know. It just feels like we're really, really scared of that big play. And maybe that's the coaching philosophy, like you said, and trying to do that. But like at the same time, like we're trying to get these guys off the field here. Like there was like a 3rd and 7 when Purdue was up by like, maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it's like a score or so. I'm like, are you really think they're going to be taking a shot downfield here on 3rd and 7? They're trying to burn the clock here. They're winning in the 4th. Like, I mean, like maybe you play up on them a little bit here. Like Miles Farmer was kind of caught like playing like the middle of the field zone, like when there's like an out route towards the sideline. Like, I mean, generally on these 3rd and 6s, you're probably going to be throwing towards that 6 yards downfield, trying to get that first down. Like, at least personally, I like to see a little bit more of like a sunken zone and like keeping a linebacker around that yard to gain mark and playing a little bit more of that and forcing these QBs to float it over the top instead of allowing them to get these under routes and let their receivers make some plays near that first down marker, at least a little bit more often than we do right now. It just feels like we're really predictable on these 3rd downs sometimes.
And those zones, a lot of those times, when guys on the defense were passing it off, the communication was not great. And, a lot of times it was a missed assignment. And it's pretty simple stuff. Like you think, the one touchdown where it looked like between Cam Taylor and I think it was Henrich where, handoff was wrong.
In the back of the end zone?
Yeah, it was the back of the end zone, missed assignment.
One of them miscommunicated the zone.
And a lot of times just on those handoffs, it wasn't clean on those coverages. It really just feels like they kind of sit in the middle of those zones and just kind of wait for it to happen, kind of have lead feet, and just don't react quick enough. And, if they do react, it's really just it's the wrong instincts. So besides JoJo's always great on that. And he's great in those zones. But, again, some of those other guys just not fantastic. And it really, really hurt us these last couple games.
Yeah, I agree. I think Braxton Clark looked good as well. I mean, overall, I think I get excited about the secondary still, but man, it's like you just always want to see a little bit more pass rush than we ever get, and it's just a little frustrating, how aren't we getting to the quarterback here? Like Purdue's
we didn't force a turnover. Aiden O'Connell turned the ball over so much, and we don't get one from the guy.
I know, and they've been terrible this year, protecting the quarterback, and they've had a lot of success. We just
make the Peyton Ramseys, Arthur Stidkowskis, Tanner Morgans of the world look like they're all Tom Brady.
Dude, it's insane. They just dice us apart, and I'm sure. A certain Ohio State quarterback might be feeling that way as well.
Yeah, I think CJ Stroud's gonna have a little bit more. It's gonna be a little easier for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, overall, we'll see what happens. I mean, moving forward, losing to Purdue is really tough. Another loss on the belt against a team that perennially Nebraska should always be beating.
Scott Frost now has another in 4 years.
The Illinois and Purdue's of the world. It's
1-3
tough.
against Purdue now.
It's real bad. So we'll see what happens. But all right, let's talk Ohio State here. Obviously, this is really interesting. We'll see what happens moving forward. But the Ohio State game, first of all, I was really surprised by the line. I was caught off guard a little bit. The line right now is at 15 points. That's surprising. I mean,
same as Penn State game.
Well, the Penn State game last week, Ohio State was favored by 19.5 against Penn State last week. That's wild. And so it's weird. I mean, I get that, that was at home. This one's on the road, but and I mean, we know that Ohio State didn't blow Penn State out by any means last week, but they played a very solid game, and they've been blowing out everybody else the previous weeks, coming off a 66-17 win against Maryland, a 54-7 win against Indiana, and then a 33-24 win against Penn State. So the over-under is 64.5 points, so it's a pretty high over-under. I mean, especially for Nebraska games this season, there hasn't been anything along those lines in the 60s yet. So it's interesting to say the least. Obviously, Ohio State's 7-1. Their only loss coming to Oregon in the second game of the year, which was definitely a big-time upset. But obviously, Oregon's proved to be a very solid team throughout this season so far.
They have been usually in the pack. Except when we played them that 2016 when they were switching coaches.
Yep. So
Helfrich.
We'll see. Thoughts on this Ohio State team? Let's start on the offensive side. What don't they do well?
Well, that's tough to say because they're ninth. Or
they're literally ranked first in every
in
literal stat category. In points per game, in yards per game, points per play, yards per play. They're all first in all those categories in the country.
Third and third down conversion. And this is the country, guys. This isn't the Big Ten.
No, this is the country.
Eighth in red zone scoring. They are very dynamic. It's crazy. It's a tall task for our defense this week as we get essentially the best offense. And, it definitely starts at freshman QB, CJ Stroud, who's got 2,270 yards, 23 passing touchdowns.
Bro,
for
Buckeyes
the guy
fans were tearing him up after that. After that Oregon
Buckeyes
loss,
fans,
and we're like, dude, give the guy a few weeks, and
he's a true freshman, okay?
And here we are,
a
Heisman candidate. I mean, he is. He's been impressive. You go back and watch some of these games, and you're like, man, he throws some dimes. Some of these things are in stride, in the basket, just beautiful. How they flow through the wind. Looking like Trevor Lawrence's hair out there. I mean, it's gorgeous. Yeah, and against Penn State, the amount of success he's had on some of these, just 5-yard out routes where he just one step, bang to the sideline, or a little play action, and oh, look who it is. It's Chris Olave. It's Garrett Wilson. They're flying down the sideline. They're wide open. And bang, right in the basket again. You're like, it just opens up for them every so often. But, I mean, the craziest thing is this team might be running, like, this team's identity might be on the ground.
Yeah, Travion Henderson, another freshman for Ohio State, who, was...
Can they share the love?
I know they got the number 1 QB and like running back
and wide receiver, bro,
ranked in the country.
Help us!
Come on, he's averaging 7.9 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, 845 yards, and this dude's kind of been overshined because Kenneth Walker the third and
the Michigan tandem.
Yes, Corum and Haskins, but he's every bit as good. And honestly, Ohio State's run blocking looked really impressive through these last few games too. Maybe even better than probably better than their pass protection. Man, and Mayan Williams,
especially
their other running back, just 7.3 yards per carry. Just light work.
Awful.
And and again, their main back last year was barely even getting the ball. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're absolutely nuts. And then again, those 3 wide receivers that you named, Chris Olave's got 9 touchdowns right now. And Garrett Wilson has really looked dynamic catching the ball too. Chris Olave is just the deep threat, just a burner. Again, like he'll break you on a seam. He's so fast. And again, CJ Stroud has been really impressive, especially hitting him on the sidelines in the past 2 weeks. But man, yeah, Garrett Wilson's got 43 catches, 687 yards, more than Olave. Not as many touchdowns, but still has 6. So,
yeah. And both of these guys are going to the NFL. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They're probably going to both be first-round picks. They could both be top 20 picks at this rate with how good they've been playing. It's just crazy.
Even Jackson Smith and Jibba, he's been super good. Again, he's not quite as fast as Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave.
He's had some moments, though. That's for sure. He has some
moves. Again, when he gets into free space, he's going to be tough to tackle. Again, it's just why it's nice as a Nebraska fan, getting to watch some nice football tape.
Man.
It's very nice. I'm not jealous at all. Not jealous at all.
I mean, that's the thing. And Jackson Smith, bro, he's been such a beast downfield. Like, did they have just so much big play potential with his team at any point? On the ground, even, downfield, they can go for 60, 70-yard touchdowns, and that's what's terrifying. And they have so much speed to get to the edge and make those plays. And there's times where you're like, oh, my word, like, how did this play just go for 60 yards? And Travion Henderson has so many of those moments where you're just like, yo, how did he get to the edge so fast? This guy's insane. Like, the speed where it's like a one step to the outside and then like a little stiff arm where he takes it to the house is like, it's happened like countless times this year.
Yeah, he only has 9 catches this year, but 3 of them are touchdowns just because he's so good. It's ridiculous. He's got, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
His movement is ridiculously good, as Josh said. And man, again, his vision, like there was just, I think it was against Maryland, where they were in the I formation on the goal line, and it was a run. It was like a power left, and then he sees that that's just not going to work. Takes 1 step to the right, literally outruns the whole secondary and everybody else like 5 yards, touchdown. And it's just just pure talent. Like that's going to be very, very difficult to scheme against.
Ohio State would have had a few more big touchdowns against Penn State if they didn't have like all-star track athletes in their secondary.
Oh man, Penn State's safeties, like that's why that game was kept close.
Yeah,
my goodness, number 1 and number 9. We don't play Penn State this year, so we haven't actually had to look at their names.
The luxury of scouting them,
yeah. So, but yeah, oh my gosh, they were running down everybody for Penn State. So
yeah,
I mean, again, they felt like more like Michigan State safeties. Again, just really fast, hard hitting. That kind of prevents the big play, which they definitely did well against us. And while our safeties are good, it's more in the run stop, not in the pass stop. Ours aren't track stars like Penn State's were. No. So I think
they're more heavy hitters. I mean, well, Ohio State might remember. Well, Chris Olave might not remember.
Chris Olave does not remember what it was Deontay Williams. What Deontay Williams did to Chris Olave last year. Let's just say he was headhunting and
KO'd him nearly.
He was ejected. Speaking of ejections, Ohio State has one for this first half of the game, which is kind of nice.
Well, so I mean, like the other thing about the offensive side is like, even their O-line, like they didn't play their best game against Penn State probably, but like on the year, they've been fantastic, and they have a handful of NFL talents on that O-line. Multiple guys that get drafted in those top 2 rounds, and they even have a talented tight end in Jeremy Ruckert, who's made a lot of plays for him too. So like they have a lot of packages they can run.
Ruckert would have been really good down the field blocking.
Yeah,
I mean he's definitely a blocking tight end again, that's just such a luxury for the run defense. Where Austin Allen's great, but man,
we're
he
just
cannot
oozing
block
about these
nearly
guys.
as well. I know. Hey,
go Buckeyes. It looks like we sound like we're fans out here. Yeah, no, I mean, like they're just really, really good. There's a reason why they're the number 1 stats in all points and yards per game right now and per play, because they're that talented, and they're blowing out some very respectable teams. I mean, like we said, they took Rutgers, Maryland, and Indiana to town. And, they beat Rutgers 52-13. They beat Akron 59-7. They're just destroying everyone this year. So that's kind of how it goes. Defensively, shocker, they're still pretty talented and have a lot of athletes on that side of the ball. I mean, they're not like top 10 in the country in most of these things, but they've been very, very respectable statistically. Number 9 in opponent yards per play, 14 in opponent's yards per play or per game. I'm sorry. And then number 10 in yards per rush, 17th in rush yards per game, 14th in sack percentage. They're still very, very solid across the board.
Yeah, and they're the number 1 scoring defense in the country as well.
There you go.
They've had 6 touchdowns,
Scary.
4 pick sixes, and 2 scoop and scores for them, including the very, very integral
on their defense with how many touchdowns these dudes are scoring. Like, what in the world?
Cage had that one. The big guy got the touchdown last week against Penn State.
Like Ronnie Hickman had one. Yeah, there's just a lot of guys that have had one. It's crazy. Basically, the only statistically where they haven't been like elite has been in opponent red zone scoring, where they're 63rd, and on third down conversions, where they're 107th. So there may be some opportunity to stay on the field a little bit here and keep them in games, but that might just be because in the second half they're up so big that defense are just kind of letting them have these short yardage plays, because let's be honest, they're winning these games. So I bet the splits there in first down or in first half third down conversion percentage versus second half third down conversion percentage is probably a pretty big difference. But they have a handful of guys to highlight the side, like Zach Harrison, edge rusher. He's been very, very good. I mean, highlighted since his freshman year, basically coming in. And they have a lot of other talented on this team.
Yeah, Marquise Williamson, one of their corners, is super good, as well as Talik Williams, who's a true freshman defensive lineman who is really, really good in rushing the QB.
It's crazy.
So if he is in the game, guess what? He is
freshman
going.
D lineman making big time plays. You don't see that very often in college football.
If he's in the field, it's definitely to get to Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. They have some guys that lay the wood. Yeah, like you said, Marcus Williamson, he lays the wood. He's had some big time plays in run stopping and some plays around the line of scrimmage. They like extending him and like on like running downs and just basically wolf blitzing him to try to make some plays in the backfield. They have some fun with it. They definitely trust their team and they trust their offense to put up points, which allows them to take risks defensively. What a luxury. Could you imagine? Like what a time to be alive.
Putting up points as an offense? We just put up yards. Yards are fun.
Yeah,
points,
especially garbage time.
Yeah, points aren't as fun.
No.
Yards, though. Yards are cool.
So we'll see what happens here. So X factors and keys to the game, Caleb. How can Nebraska keep this thing close? I mean, the 15-point spread feels a little generous. It looks like about 92% consensus on Ohio State on that line. Shocker.
Wow.
We'll see what happens. I mean, again, Nebraska's played it close with the best teams they've played against this year. We've played up to our opponents and then played down to our opponents. And so we got an early game here, obviously.
That's helpful.
That might be
11 a.m. at home.
Itself. Yeah, right?
Yeah, again, it was an 11 a.m. game at Ohio State where, Scott Frost kind of kept it close. Again, caught Ohio State napping. Problem is, the CFP, the rankings just came out. Ohio State's 5. They
gotta put on a show.
They got bulletin board material for Nebraska. Again, this is not a confident team. Obviously, our defense is good, and they've seen a lot. And again, this is a freshman QB who's gonna try and keep it simple. So there's some hope there. Where we throw some creative things in there. again, with our really good safeties, some safety blitzes,
right?
Hopefully creating some.
They haven't played an intimidating road game yet. I mean, their biggest one would have been, I guess, Minnesota in the first game of the year when Minnesota was like a really hyped up game, and they ended up winning that. But like since then, they haven't played like a big time road game like against an established program like Nebraska.
A loud crowd.
So we'll see. I mean, Indiana's obviously pretty solid, but yeah, I mean, Nebraska is definitely in a different tier. And so there's kind of that factor too, where you're playing some of the narrative game here. Like, can you catch them sleeping? Can you catch them overlooking you a little bit? I'd rather be Purdue next week with the big games against MSU and Michigan coming up for Ohio State.
Yes, because that's way more of a trap game. It feels like than this one. But yeah, they have a lot of penalties. Ohio State, they're 123rd in penalties, 0.03 per play. 3% of the time. They average 64 yards of penalties per game. So, sometimes can be a little bit undisciplined, and that can make sense with a lot of young players. So, again, hopefully they're making a lot of mistakes. And the nice thing is, with a loud Nebraska crowd, we've seen it again with Michigan and other big teams. It doesn't matter. False starts happen. It's hard communicating in, getting in those signals. And, luckily a Nebraska home game is a big boost to kind of help us here, to jumpstart us a little bit. I think Nebraska needs to be really, really aggressive. I think just as sellout for Stroud, tons of different sets. I mean, switching up zones, who's spying the QB, just make it as complicated as possible. This is a senior defense who's been in the playbook for 4 years. Throw the kitchen sink at him, and that's our best bet. I mean, just add the weirdest stuff that we got.
I agree.
Throw it all, cover 3, cover 4, like just everything.
As many multiple Ds. Yeah, that's the thing. Like at the end of the day,
send a different guy blitzing every time.
Sure, they lost the game to Oregon, but obviously Oregon's we now know is an elite team. And there was over 1,100 yards of offense in that game. Ohio State had 600 yards of offense in a loss in that game. So it's like,
and
that's the type of script that they're looking for in a loss. Like, it's hard to picture that for Nebraska to put up that many yards in a game against Ohio State.
Even when our good players go off, I mean, I remember J.D. Spielman broke the record under Mike Riley for most yards caught in a single game for a Nebraska player. I think he broke 200. And even still, like, we got blown out. We didn't even score like a touchdown. He had I think he had like 200 yards himself, and we lost. So, it's not just going to be an individual performance. It's going to be scheming, coaching. And, again, like, the thing is, Ohio State sees everybody's best shot every week. But, so we're going to have to do something creative, different, trick plays. That's what it takes against a team like this. We've known it. Ohio State knows it.
Get points on the board early, and then you're trying to burn clock. You're trying to get a turnover to get some momentum.
Exactly.
And burn
get
clock.
The crowd into it early. Get this loud early. Make them uncomfortable on an 11 a.m. game.
Right. And like the biggest thing is like when it comes to like our defensive side and how you slow down this offense, there's not really a perfect formula. I mean, you're going to give up some points in this game. It's inevitable. Like they're going to have some big time plays. Like you're going to have to rely on your best player here, Cam Taylor, to lock down one of these guys. Like you're like, all right, here's Chris Olave.
Or Wilson.
Cover him. Like, and then you're helping out Braxton Clark or help and like with Miles Farmer and Quentin Newsome. You're helping those guys out on the opposite side with like Garrett and all these guys who are talented. And so it's like, then you're like looking at JoJo Domann, you're like, all right, you're full-time locking down a slot here and you're literally taking care of the underneath. Like there's a lot of big time individual responsibility in this game of freeing up the ability to bring pressure and sell out to stop the run here. Because that's a big time problem.
I definitely like nickel in this game. You want our fast players covering those guys.
Yeah.
You don't want a linebacker to get stuck in some coverage here, because they're just gonna get burnt straight out. Reimer, Henrich, Garrett Nelson, they cannot cover these guys. So I don't think zones, it's not gonna work so much. It's not gonna work so well. So,
no.
And we're going to have to get to the quarterback. So Garrett's going to have to be doing that. We're not going to win in coverage or in zone on this, I don't think. Again, we haven't looked good in our zone against Minnesota, against Purdue. So, I think, again, nickel's probably our best bet most of the game.
So now with that said, predictions. Like I said, 15-point line isn't crazy. I mean, we've been in way worse situations against Ohio State the past decade. So, we'll take.
I remember those Mike Riley like 30-point lines.
We're at right now, right? So, I'll kick us off here. I mean, I don't really. There's no, in good conscience, I can't sit here and say Nebraska's going to beat Ohio State. It's just completely outrageous. Realistically, I assume Ohio State's going to kind of grind us out here. They might have a big play or two in the first half. It might be a little bit slow in the first, but in the second half, the running game's going to open up. Henderson's going to start tearing off some runs. They're going to be getting to the edge. And then suddenly now you have to start respecting this play action. They're going to have some effective shots downfield. I would imagine by the end of the third quarter, this is a pretty tough scoreline for Nebraska. So I think in the fourth quarter, we'll probably keep Adrian in, get some points there, kind of our classic garbage time type situation to get a few touchdowns on the board. But I'm thinking like a 49-21 type situation here where we're not really keeping it that close.
Yeah, there's just, again, Nebraska really hasn't scored over 25 points, so it's hard for me to pick over 25, even with a rough defense. Again, Purdue and Minnesota's defense weren't anything special, but still rough. So, yeah, I have 59-23. Again, I think we can get to, in those 40s.
That's tough.
Oh, we're going to turn the ball over, though.
Being tough.
We're going to turn the ball over. I mean, that's the reality of the situation we're in. We're going to turn the ball over at least twice.
And we couldn't force turnovers against Purdue.
Exactly. How are we going to force them against Ohio State? This a much better quarterback, a much better running back, much better weapons, a much better offensive line. This is just, again, and we're going to give up mistakes anyway. It's bad news bears.
Yeah.
So, 59-23. If Nebraska scores 30 points, and if Nebraska scores 30 points, asterisk, and it's not in the fourth quarter when the second and third strings are out, I would be immensely shocked.
There's the narratives there, but it's just really, really hard to pick at that line. But like I said, the 15-point line's very interesting though, because maybe Vegas sees some X factors here, or that the potential sleeping on Nebraska situation that could come into play.
Yeah, like Adrian's t-shirt said, "Don't sleep on us."
Amen. I'd prefer a sleep on us shirt, because that's what we need here.
No, sleep on us, please. forget there's a game. Just don't show up, forfeit. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Put on the Nebraska uni on accident, run out of our tunnel, play defense for us. I think that could work out pretty well too.
Chris Olave transferred right away and is immediately eligible to play for Nebraska, as well as the whole Ohio State team. Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, guys. It's going to be wild. Obviously, go Big Red. That's what we're here for. But it might be a tough one. We'll see what happens. The bye week's next week, so we'll be talking about that as well. After Nebraska pulls off the miracle, we'll be partying, to say the least. Husker fans, drop all your comments down below. We want to hear what you guys have to say. What's the narrative for you guys for how we make it happen this weekend, baby, and get hyped against Ohio State? But we appreciate you guys, and like I said, comment, subscribe. If you guys really enjoyed it. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Backseat Sports and Guides. We will see you next time.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red, baby. Let's go.